This video is about vectors. So the concept of vectors is like if this is a marker, this is a whiteboard marker, right? All that I know is that if you are combine maybe one and a two of these things, I got to two markers. So the same way, if you are combine two vectors, I'm going to get a different vector. So that is what the idea of a vectors, or maybe in some cases you may get a different thing. So if you want to know more about vectors, make sure that you subscribe to this video. Give us a thumbs up and then comment down below if you have any issue concerning what vectors. Now let's have a look at these questions and see how this vector. But the only thing you have to know is that if you combine this human being to another different human being, they are going to produce what, a third what, human being. Is that okay? So they are going to produce. So if you combine two vectors, what am I going to get at the end? Let's have a look at these questions. This video is about vectors. So the concept of vectors is like if this is a marker, this is a whiteboard marker, right? All that I know is that if you combine maybe one and a two of these things, I got to two markers. So the same way, if you combine two vectors, I'm going to get a different vector. So that is what the idea of a vectors, or maybe in some cases you may get a different thing. So if you want to know more about vectors, make sure that you subscribe to this video. Give us a thumbs up and then comment down below if you have any issue concerning what vectors. Now let's have a look at these questions and see how this vector. But the only thing you have to know is that if you combine this human being to another different human being, they are going to produce what, a third what, human being. Is that okay? So they are going to produce. So if you combine two vectors, what am I going to get at the end? Let's have a look at these questions. From the question, we were told that this is the first guy, right? So maybe in some notations, in vector notation, let's use this one just to represent a vector. So this is how the vector looks like. It looks like 3i minus what, minus d. And then we have the second one to be b. That is equal to 2i and then what, plus what, 3 j, right? So these are two different vectors as we are having. Don't worry, this is how these people looks like. Is that okay? This is how they are. This is their structure, right? So now, what are they asking us to find? They said to correct or to two decimal places. You should find four of the a, right? So four of the vector a, four a, which is this vector here, and then what? Minus what, two b, right? So 2b, right? This is what they are asking us to find. So the meaning of this two bar is this bar and this bar is what we call a distance, right? So the distance since this line determines the distance between these two people, we need to find 4 of the a. 4 of the a means that 4 multiplied by a. So we are going to maintain this bar. So let's continue from this place. We are going to maintain. We have what? They say we should find the distance. So that's the distance or the length of what? This vector minus or 2 of what? The second vector, right? So these two lines means what? A distance. So how do you find out the distance? So we are going to determine this thing by saying, so let's maintain this 2 bar first. So 4 multiplied by the a. Where is the 8? So this guy here, the first guy, that's all. 3i minus what, j. Sorry, minus j here. Alright. And then minus, remember this minus here. So minus of 2 of the b. So the b here is of 2i and then plus or 3j. So the second guy. So let's maintain the bar here. So if you keep this bar, we are going to have 4 multiplied by this one. That should give us from the first bar, that is what, 12i, right? So this guy multiplied by that should be a negative 4j, right, for the first part. So minus of this one multiplied by this, we are going to have a 4i, right? So let's maintain this negative for the first time. So 4i, and then this multiplied by this one, that should be what, negative. Let's ignore this because there's a negative here. So that should be positive 6j. Is that okay? So if you want to take off the bracket, so here we just maintain this guy to be that should be what, 12i minus what 4j. This guy will tend to be negative 4i, right? So this one will tend to be negative 6, so 6j. Is that okay? So let's group the alike terms. So grouping the alike terms is family members should go to one side, right? So this and this guy are family, so this and this one are also family. So we are going to maintain the bar. We have a 12i and then minus what 4i and then negative 4j and then minus of 6j. Is that okay? So the negative to the I to the I and then the negative to the negative. Can you see that this and this and then that one and that one? Is that okay? So what are we going to get here? So here we are having what? That should be equal to this and this one. So 12 minus 4, that should be, we are still maintaining the bar. So we are left with what? 8i, right? 8i. This negative and then minus 1, that should be negative 10, right? So negative 10j. So this is what are the two things that we are getting. Now let's determine what the length of what these people by just using that length definition. So you should know the length definition. So let's see how to do that. So this thing should be very simple. By the length definition, you just square what the first number here. So the number here that is equal to. So you have a square root of, right? So remember there's a square root according to that definition. So you have a, if you want to know more about the length distance, make sure that you check our playlist on what vectors, right? Subscribe to the channel. Comment down below if you have any issues. So that this is the length definition. So you are going to square the first guy, which is the 8. So 8 here squared and then 8 squared plus that is the definition. This plus is very plus or the second guy. So the second guy is a negative 10, right? So into bracket negative 10 and then square, right? So if you square this, that should be square root of that and the square. You are going to have a square root of 164, right? So 164. So if you simplify this thing, you should have what 8. Remember the question said to 2 decimal place. So 12 point what 81, right? So 12.81 units. So this is what the distance between what the the two guys being given to us. That's the 4a minus what minus 2b, right? So that is the distance what between these two people. If you have any question relating to how to solve any questions on vectors, make sure that you comment down below. For Okay, now this is similar to the first question that we just saw. So here we are having three different guys. So by name what first guy that is M and then N as well as on the R. So these are the three different guys, and we have been asked to find three of the M subtracted by two of the N and then minus of the R. So we want to find the distance of these people, right? So these are the people that we want to find the distance. So first of all, you can see that this thing is not a low, the M is not a low. There's a 3 attached to the M here, and then there's a negative 2 also attached to the N. So you have to make sure that you find these people before you apply what the distance formula, right? So 3 of the M here is going to be, so by solving this thing, we are going to have 3 of the M, right? So 3 multiplied by the M. So the M here is of 3i, that is what 3i plus what 5j, right? So 5j, is that okay? So minus, is that okay? So minus what 2 of the N. So N here you have the 2i and then minus what minus j, and then finally and then minus what minus the R, right? So minus the R, that is the 5i, right? So 5i plus what 17j. So the trick is that you have to make sure that you put everything into brackets. Now let's take off the brackets, how to do the expansion here. So this 3 multiplied by what? And the 3, that will give us no 9i. This guy multiplied that, that's what plus 15j, right? So we have a negative 2 multiplying this one. You are going to have negative 4i. So this guy multiplied by that. Remember there's a negative and negative here, that tends to be positive. So plus what 2j, right? So this guy multiply by that, that should be what? Negative 5i. And then this one also minus 17 or 17j. Is that okay? So that is the simple expand everything. Now you are going to group all the I into what? One house, and then you group all the j also into what? One house. So you have a 9i. So there's another I here. So minus 4i. Right. So here is what? Minus what? 5 for I. Right. So that is for the I. So what about the j? So the j families, we are going to have from here we have a positive what? 15j, right? So positive 15j plus what? 2j here, and then as well as a negative 17j. Is that okay? Since I are in one family, or this also are in one family, all that we are going to do here is to deal with the numbers. So we are going to have 9 minus 4 minus 5, everything here with the I, right? So here to we have what? Let's say plus, right? So plus what? Plus here, that tends to be a positive what? 15 plus what? Plus 2. I'm just dealing with the numbers, and then minus what? 17, everything G. Is that okay? So do the subtraction and then additions here, and then write your answer. Now let's see what you are going to get. So clearly we can see that you have this 9 minus this one. That should be what? 4, 5, right? So 5 minus 5, that should be 0. So you have a 0i. And then plus what here too. Yeah, here should be 17. 17 minus 17, that should be 0g. Is that okay? So now remember, the question is they're asking us to find is that you should find the distance between what? Everything within, right? So after finding everything, combining them together, we have these people. So by the distance definition, that will just be the square root of 0 squared, and then plus 0 squared. Okay, that should be 0. After solving all this in the answer that we had, and it's 0 units, right? So that is just what? A 0. There's no distance between what? These people, right? There's no distance. There's no distance between what? These three guys.